What's going on, everyone? My name is Austin Koziel. Today, I want to talk to you about the top 3 reasons you probably won't hit your drum goals in 2023. Now, I know that sounds harsh, but if you think about it, if you know the top reasons why you probably won't hit your goals, you can then take that information, flip it around, and work to avoid those 3 things, and therefore actually achieve your goals in 2023. Reason number 1 you probably won't hit your drum goals in the new year is because you don't have a clear outcome in your head of what you want to achieve by the end of the year. A lot of people will set vague goals like, I want to practice 2 hours every day this year, and that's where it'll end. That's a good start, but that doesn't really mean anything. So what if you practice for 2 hours a day and one day you practice your rudiments and another day you practice a chop you saw on Instagram or TikTok and another day, you get the idea. It's all scattered, and just practicing for a certain amount of time instead of practicing to achieve a goal or to accomplish something specific is really wasting your time. So instead of setting vague goals, have a clear outcome of what you want to accomplish by the end of the year, and then work backwards and break it down into small chunks to work you towards that big goal or that big achievable, clear outcome. For example, you might say by the end of the year, I want to sound more like, let's just choose Sput as an example. I want to sound more like Sput. Therefore, I'm going to transcribe 5 of his solos and learn all the songs on the Swagism album and be able to play them so I can integrate his vocabulary and sound more like him. Once I do that, I will then create exercises to make variations out of the common themes throughout all of his playing and make it my own, so I'm not just copying him, but developing my own style that sounds a little more like what I want to sound like as a drummer. That's an example of taking something vague like, I just want to practice for 2 hours every day, which is good. Playing your instrument for 2 hours every day is awesome, but you're inevitably going to waste some time in the process and also just practice things that don't necessarily matter or apply to you. They might be cool for a metal drummer or a jazz drummer, but if you're in a rock cover band, why do you need those things? So practice what's applicable to you, and you're only going to know what's applicable to you if you have a clear goal of what you want your outcomes to be and how you want to develop by the end of the year. Greb actually talks about this in his book, Effective Practicing for Musicians. He talks about developing what are called SMART goals, which are goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So having a clear plan allows you to develop goals that are SMART goals instead of vague goals, so you can actually take the steps necessary to achieve that big outcome at the end of the year. Check out his book, Effective Practicing for Musicians. I'll link to that in the description below. I read it, I loved it, and I know it's helped out a ton of drummers around the world. Shout out Greb. Reason number 2 you probably won't hit your drum goals in 2023 is because you think there's a silver bullet book, course, or system that you just haven't found yet. There's a lot of free information on the internet and a lot of paid content on the internet. There's so much information you could spend every hour of every day just consuming information. Let me save you a lot of time. If you've been drumming for about 3 to 5 years, you know 90% of what you ever need to know behind the drums. Where you're really going to see a big improvement is going deep with the fundamentals and getting creative and applying them to your own world. There's no magic exercise. There's no magic course. The real magic is putting in the hard work and getting to an expert level of mastering and controlling the fundamentals. So refine your technique, get creative, develop a basic vocabulary, and from there, work hard to make it sound great. Remember, we all have the same tools to work with. If you're able-bodied and healthy, you got 2 arms and 2 legs, and basically everyone has a similar or the same drum set setup. You got like 3 to 5 drums and a few cymbals, and it's about what you do with your limbs and your drums that makes you sound like you rather than someone else. So tip number 2 is go deep with the fundamentals and put in the hard work and stop wasting time trying to find that one silver bullet magic course or book that's going to totally change your playing. One caveat to that is if you're a total beginner or maybe you've only been drumming for, I'd say like 1 to 3 years, books, courses, a lot of them are great and they're going to help you a ton. But then after that, you're going to realize a lot of books and courses are just the same information packaged and delivered in a different way. And they're really all the same thing. When you get down to it, it's manipulating rhythms between your hands and your feet. That's it. And lastly, the third reason why you probably won't hit your drumming goals this year is because you're unrealistic and you're undisciplined. I know that sounds harsh, but most of you are probably overestimating what you can accomplish in a month and underestimating what you can accomplish in a year. So when you practice every day for 4 hours for a month and you don't quite see the improvement you were expecting, you're going to get disappointed and you're going to stop and you're going to fall off track. On the other hand, if you just practice 30 minutes or an hour every day for a whole year and you have a clear plan and you're focused on your fundamentals and you're realistic, you can probably accomplish way more than you expected. You have to commit to the long game. You have to be willing to put in a lot of time and a lot of focus time to see any results. You wouldn't expect to get a 6-pack in a week if you just started working out and dieting, would you? Working out is a great analogy for getting better at the drums. It takes a lot of time before you start to see any sort of results. But on the other hand, if you set your own personal goal of getting a 6-pack within a year or even 2 years, that might be pretty realistic depending on, of course, where you're starting from. The idea is that don't expect something to happen too soon. If it was easy, everyone would do it and everyone would be able to play like Vinny Colaiuta. But that's just not the case, and you need to set your expectations and be realistic. And the second part of that is being disciplined in the practice room. So don't check your phone, don't check social media while you're practicing, don't even check social media before you practice because it takes time away from you actually settling in and getting into a mode where your brain can start intaking and then consolidating information, new information. On top of that, are you disciplined enough to have a strict schedule and, for example, get a good 8 hours of sleep every night? You might be thinking, what does sleep have to do with any of this? Well, sleep and deep sleep is actually when your brain consolidates information it learned from the previous day. So if you're not getting good sleep, if you're partying at night or just staying up too late for no reason, and you don't get good sleep, you basically diminished the effectiveness of that practice session you just had. Plus, if you're practicing for 2 hours, but you spent 20 minutes of that checking social media, your brain was switching between your phone and trying to refocus practicing, so that 2 hours wasn't an efficient 2 hours in the first place. Then you put some bad sleep on top of that. Your practice session was basically half as effective as it could have been if you were disciplined with your schedule and your regimen. So be realistic and be focused when you're deciding to practice, and also before and after. Give yourself a buffer of about 30 minutes away from the phone, away from distractions beforehand. Take some time after to just sit in silence and give your brain and your body a little bit to integrate the information it just took in, and then go about your day as normal. So I know the title of this video sounded harsh, But the reason I wanted to call those 3 things out, like I said, is so you can avoid them and do the opposite to actually get these results this year. So to recap, number 1, have a clear plan of what you want the outcome to be at the end of the year. Number 2, don't get distracted by all the courses and books and free content and TikTok videos and YouTube shorts out there. Focus on your fundamentals and go deep with them. And number 3, be realistic and be disciplined. Don't get disappointed when you don't see results right away, because they will come if you put in the work. And make sure you're being disciplined enough to put in the work every day and focus and really focus while you're putting in that practice time. I hope you enjoyed this episode of In the Groove. If you did, please feel free to share with a friend, leave a comment if you have any suggestions, or even just let me know what you're working on this year. Have a great rest of your day and a great year. I'll talk to you next week. Peace.